Nation's #1 DJ, DJ Rockwell.
Yo, this is Apocalypse, the lyrical warner, hip-hop revelator. And you rockin' with the nation's #1 DJ, DJ Rockwell, you understand me?
Assalamu alaikum. We are in the building. It's your brother, your friend, your host of the Rockwell Radio Show. This is DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ. And we are in the building. You're in the building right now. And we thank every single one of you for joining us. And I want to start the top of the show by saying welcome to the Closing the Gap Network listeners. Thank you. It's an honor to be a member of that beautiful broadcast group. I want to thank Brother Minister James Muhammad. I want to thank Brother Minister Dimitri Muhammad. I want to thank Sister Starla and everybody over at Closing the Gap. And your little brother now is a part of the squad. And you can watch us now, not only on the Rockwell Radio Show platforms, but also you can watch us on Closing the Gap. We thank you. And the next order of business, it is hip hop's 50th birthday, y'all. What you know about it? All over the country, all over the world, people are celebrating the culture that changed the world. You and I, maybe, well, me for sure, maybe not you, but I can say for a certainty that if it wasn't for hip hop, if it wasn't for that culture, that music, that lifestyle, if it wasn't for that, and if you're new with us, if this is your first time tuning into the Rockwell Radio Show, we're glad to have you. We're glad that you're here. What is the Rockwell Radio Show? Me and my brother, Big Dave C. He produces the show. And let me just bear witness and give a quick testimonial of what really this show is all about. This show came into being because we wanted to see a change in music. We accepted Islam together, my brother and I, but we came from hip hop culture. We was B-boys, graph writers, DJs, MCs. I practiced every aspect of the culture. And when I joined the nation, I thought, man, was I going to have to stop doing? Do I got to stop being? And I was so blessed to be informed, brother, you can accept your own and be yourself. And ever since then, I get to hold on to the culture and promote the culture and use it for the true weapon that it should be used for. And that is the upliftment of our entire people. Tonight, we need everybody, wherever you're watching from, to go ahead and observe the 3 standing rules of the Rockwell Radio Show. And that is simply to hit that like and share button, tag somebody. And last but not least, if you're watching right now on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Well, alaikum salam to my brother, student minister Jamil Muhammad. In fact, it was him. Well, alaikum salam, brother Tony. It was him who told me, brother Vaughn, you ain't got to give up hip hop. Be yourself. Use that trade, use that old boom bap, and go get our people. And that is what the Rockwell Radio Show is all about. Tonight, I got an absolute fire squad. 4 tornadoes that are waiting to talk to you. And Dave, I wrote some notes. I wrote a few notes because I didn't want to, because I didn't want to float away. People are asking, people saw the flyer and they're like, yo, Why ain't no rappers in the lineup? And I said, let me speak to that real quick. That was an intentional choice. Right now, hip hop is in what I call the dark ages. Matter of fact, I'm gonna stop the beat to say this, Big Dave. Hip hop is in the dark ages. And we don't need just rappers to bring them out. I need somebody who knows the culture, who knows the word that can bring them out. It just so happens that my guests tonight are all of the hip hop generation, but have dedicated themselves to a mission of resurrecting a people. Who could I pick better? I want to thank a few people before I get started. I want to thank my brother of lost sheep, brother Jabril, the Angel Muhammad of Muhammad Mosque number 7. I want to thank you, brother, because I wasn't going to get Abdul Haq no other way. You know, it wasn't going to happen. And I want to address one more thing today before we get started. Let me stop it. Do you know how many people said, why isn't Brother Minister Arthur of New York on this show? And it just so happens that we invited the dear brother, but there was a scheduling conflict. Oh, thank you for the correction, dear sister. Brother said, you know what? I would love to be there, but we missed one another and we are planning a number 2. So please be on the lookout for a number 2 with our dear brother, Student Minister Arthur Muhammad. Now, it's very interesting, and I don't normally say this. I don't normally get into what episode number. Me and Big Dave want to keep track of the episode numbers, for our own log books and our own, that. But it's so interesting, Big Dave, that tonight's episode is episode number 88. Why is that significant? It just so happens that we decided to name the episode tonight The Symphony, which was released in 1988. So we want some more people to join this though before we get started. Again, we need everybody to help us. Help us by go ahead and hitting that like and share button. Tag somebody who needs to hear tonight's word because, oh my God, we're going to have some fireworks tonight on the Rockwell radio show. And again, we want to welcome all of the listeners who are joining us from Closing the Gap. The network is so much of an honor to be a part of that. And I also noted, Dave, I had to look at what was the 88th surah of the Holy Quran.
And what did you get, sir?
I learned that, well, I didn't learn. I had to remind myself that the name of the 88th surah is the overwhelming event. And what could we be more than ready to experience tonight than an overwhelming event? Of 4 of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's student ministers who are on the front lines of fighting ignorance, who are on the front lines of attacking a dead mindset, and who also happen to be fans of hip hop music too. And it's only right, before I bring them out, there's a video that I've shown before on this podcast, but it's only appropriate that we do this again. Matter of fact, walaikum salam, everybody. Matter of fact, I need everybody to keep checking in. Let us know what city you represent. Let us know what mosque you represent, because tonight is going to be phenomenal. So, Big Dave, let's go ahead and show them this.
Do you ever talk to these artists about cleaning up their music and being more positive and not talking about hoeing and drugs? Because you meet with a lot of artists.
Yes.
You meet with a lot of artists.
When they sit down with me, I'm not their judge. Elijah Muhammad said to me, when I'm gone, brother, you may sit in my seat as the father over the house in my absence. I love my people. I live and I will die to see our people free. When I meet a rapper, I'm looking at the God within him, that he has 5 million, 10 million followers. You don't magnetize 10 million followers unless you have a great gift. And that gift comes from only one source, he who gives the gift. That's God.
I'm without words. Cincinnati, Ohio in the building. Dave, who else in the building with us? Brooklyn's in the house. Who else in the house with us? Hometown. 28, St. Louis, Missouri in the building with us. Come on now, who else in the house? 25, Newark, New Jersey in the building with us. We need everybody to go ahead and share the show. This is the 50th anniversary of hip hop. This is DJ Rockwell. You're watching the Rockwell Radio Show. And again, we want to thank the broadcast, the Closing the Gap Broadcast Network for having your brother. Boogie Down Bronx in the building, my brother Big Todd. This is going to be in the building. Baltimore in the house. Now, Dave, I got to stop the music. What you got? Now, what is a symphony? A symphony is a collection of finely tuned instruments playing a beautiful melodious sound, all working in concert together, sounding crystal clear, sweet musical sounds to the listener. But it was also a 1988 posse cut that made history in hip hop charts. And today we've got the posse with us today. And it's only right that I play this as the backdrop as we introduce our guests. Can we do that, Big Dave?
I think we can do that.
Joining us all the way from Newark, New Jersey, Mox number 25. You just saw him bless us all with an outstanding lecture from Mox Mariam in July called God, Why Me? He spoke to our souls, electrifying the masses from coast to coast and around the world. And he's joining us here on the Rockwell Radio Show for the first time. Please welcome my brother and yours for the first time on the Rockwell Radio Show, student minister Abdul Haq Muhammad.
Thank you. All praises due to Allah. Thank you, my brother, my dear brother. Greatly appreciated. Honored to join you. All praises due to Allah, my dear brother.
Atlanta in the building. We're not done. Can I play the beat again, Dave?
Bring it back.
Coming up next, he is the host of the very popular podcast called I Have a Testimony. Based out of New Orleans, Louisiana. He has been a staple on the Rockwell Radio Show, and he's joining us again. He's one of the posse members. Please welcome back to the Rockwell Radio Show, student minister Willie Muhammad.
All praises due to Allah, my brother. Thank you for this opportunity. And I'm honored to be on this show with my fellow brothers who are in the ministry.
Come on now, it's not too late to share the show. It's not too late to share the show. That's right, Brother Gary. Happy birthday to the hip hop. That's what we're doing tonight. And since you already put him on the screen once by mistake, this brother, what can I say about this brother? He is an author of over 13 books. He is a strong defender of your teacher, my teacher, our friend, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as a member of the research team for the Nation of Islam. He is based in Memphis, Tennessee, at a Mox number 55, helping the minister there, and he is everywhere as a defender of the culture, the truth, and the people. Please welcome back to the Rockwell Radio Show, my brother and yours, Brother Dimitri Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Such a great honor, DJ Rockwell, to be on with you tonight once again. talking about a wonderful and very important subject. And it's an added honor to be on with such esteemed brothers, friends, and colleagues in the great student ministry class of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, but we're still not done. It's tornado season in Atlanta. It's tornado season right here on the Rockwell Radio Show, and we've got one more tornado to welcome to the show. Can I play the beat one more time, Dave?
Bring it back. Bring that beat back.
All the way from what we call the cradle of civilization, the place where the nation was birthed, the place where Allah in person knocked door to door, selling silks in black bottom. This brother serves as the student minister. This brother, last time I saw this was at Savior's Day. He was in Chicago walking deep with at least 40 men. And this brother is a workhorse for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Please welcome back to the Rockwell Radio Show for a second time, my brother and yours, student minister Troy Muhammad.
All praise is due to Allah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.
All praise is due to Allah. It's feeling like Savior's Day on the Rockwell Radio Show. All of these great brothers.
That's right.
If you tuned in, welcome to the Rockwell Radio Show. It's about to get serious. It's about to get serious. So let me get into it. First of all, brothers, thank you all for joining us today, gracing us with your presence to talk about the 50th birth anniversary of the culture that is sweeping the planet called hip hop. And I don't normally come to the show in class A, but it was only right. I had to, and then we on a new network, so I had to, do the thing what we do. so
praise is due to Allah.
What I would like you to do, if you will, dear brothers, I would like each of you just to make an opening statement based on the introductory video that you saw. If you can give us just a quick opening statement of anything that you'd like to say, of introduction of yourselves or the subject that we're going to cover tonight, just give us 60 seconds, and I'll start with Brother Dimitri, Brother Abdul Haq, Brother Willie, and then Brother Minister Troy.
Brother Vaughn, thank you so much once again for having us. I apologize, I didn't see the introductory video, but I would just like to say as words of introduction that we are just extremely honored and very happy to be on with you discussing the 50th anniversary of hip hop music, hip hop culture, and its impact on Black America and really the world. And I think that our conversation must and needs be unique, for we represent the man who really is widely acknowledged as the godfather of the hip hop movement and culture, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. For long before you had rappers and politicians courting the hip hop culture for votes, it was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the earliest days of hip hop that served in the role as the good shepherd of these young people who were burgeoning with a new form of music that many of the elders in the previous generation were condemning and looking down upon. So I think it's worthy for us to have this conversation tonight, and that this conversation blossom, because really in truth, hip hop in its purest sense belongs to the Nation of Islam. So I'm very happy and very honored to be a part of this conversation.
You're watching the Rockwell Radio Show. Hit that like button, hit that share button. And now we hear introductory word from our big brother, joining us for the first time on the show, Abdul Haq.
Well, again, first and foremost, my dear brother, I'm deeply grateful and highly honored for the privilege and the pleasure to speak to you and be with you on behalf of our beloved leader and teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who once again we are deeply grateful and highly honored to be representatives of him, or striving to represent him. My dear brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have said to us, along with others in the world, that one rap song was worth more than 100 sermons. and other times he said one rap song was more impactful or more influential than 1,000 sermons. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we believe, being raised up by Almighty God Allah and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is a man who's on time and is a man who time it is. And he's deeply in tune with our people, our culture, what's needed and what's necessary. And the scriptures of the Bible say to us in the book of Luke in the 5th chapter, the 31st verse, that they that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick.
Come on.
And we know that our sojourn in America has made us as a people sick. And while others have tried to condemn hip hop, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan being the most, I would say, the greatest defender of Black people and of our youth, he has defended hip hop and the rappers and letting it be known that what we see our rappers displaying is only a manifestation of the culture that we have been indoctrinated with by white supremacy and more specifically white America. So again, we thank you, dear brother, and we pray that we can add some light on hip hop and on some of the questions that maybe you impose for us. And again, we thank you for having us on the show.
That's Abdul Haq, y'all, representing 25. Look in the building. Let's take it down to Louisiana and hear from our brother. Opening comments from Student Minister Willie Muhammad.
And I'm glad that Brother Abdul Haq led with those words and talking about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I too was reflecting on what the scripture says about Jesus. And many times Jesus caught flack because he was working and ministering to those who this world deemed to be unfit, right? And that's the same thing with the hip hop artists. And in the opening of this show, the very beautiful introductions that you all have, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is someone that needs to be studied. If any of our leaders, the older ones, the up and coming ones, they want to have a relationship with the hip hop artists, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's way is the blueprint. Because as I heard in one of the, or as I read in one of the notes that our brother Abdul Qiyam sent me, and the minister was talking about his method and his way with dealing with the hip hop artists. One of the things the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said is that he does not freeze them. And he was saying that he does not come out with this judgmental spirit, which will close them up. But he gets next to them and he begins to start allowing them to see that their talent, their skill, and their greatness is being used by an enemy of all of us for the benefit of the enemy. So I'm looking forward to this discussion so we can talk about that more.
Last but not least, let's make our way up to Detroit. Muhammad Mox #1 with Student Minister Troy Muhammad.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And thank my brothers very much for such an opportunity. And thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan above all. You know, when we look at that clip, you're reminded that the sheep know the voice of the shepherd, that the people of God know the voice of God. As our brother Minister Willie mentioned, you know, many would condemn hip hop. I was watching the Tupac movie again and was reminded of C. Dolores Tucker and how Tupac mentioned that, you know, it would have been better if she would have talked to them first before she went to the media concerning her displeasure with the language of the music. Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan never condemned. And I remember hearing him say, you know, if you can recognize an atom's weight of good in a person, you should focus on that.
That's right.
You know, and it seems like he's done that with the hip hop community.
Come on.
He doesn't view the negativity, but he views what God views, which is the best part of the human being. And that's allowed the connection to make place between the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, between the Nation of Islam and the hip hop community. So this conversation becomes an extension of that, brother. And I'm, again, honored to be here with such great brothers and being hosted by yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave, can we get it on? Let's get it on. Again, I want to welcome everybody to the Rockwell Radio Show. I want to welcome all of those who are watching us via brand new Closing the Gap. I'm telling you, it's an honor to be a part of that great, beautiful network This show is a little bit different, but you'll see why in a minute. Now, let me say this, Big Dave. Now, when I contacted Brother Minister Dimitri, he was like, Vaughn, how are we going to do this in an hour? Are you, Vaughn, stop playing with it. Stop playing with it. I've got some great conversation here for us, and I'm going to try to get through it. I'm going to try to get through it. And then my brother is Brother Jabril. Thank you for everything, Brother Jabril. But let's jump right in and get right to it. And to be fair for time, there's no way I'm going to have everyone answer every question. So what I decided is I'm just going to pick at least 2 brothers per question. But if you have something that you just had, Brother Vaughn, I got to answer that. Go ahead and right. So I don't want to suppress the Holy Ghost. Yeah. So this first question will be aimed at student ministers Dimitri and Brother Minister Willie. As we acknowledge the 50th year of hip hop, brothers, there's been a growing conversation that some may say is divisive. If DJ Kool Herc is the father of hip hop and he was born in Jamaica, can Jamaica make the claim that hip hop is theirs? American-born blacks, us, we tend to take issue with that, with outsiders wanting to take credit for something that was born on American soil. So just to condense that, there's this divisive argument about who does hip hop belong to? Have you all heard this argument? And how do you weigh in on it?
Well, I think, Brother Vaughn, my mind goes to our supreme wisdom lessons. And there is a question there that asks, why does the devil call our people African? To keep our people divided. And so we see in this conversation and other similar types of conversations that are bandied back and forth in the social media space, a divisiveness that seeks to fracture the growing unity throughout the global black world that really the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have been the greatest champions of. My mind goes to the masthead of the great and legendary Muhammad Speaks newspaper. And the honorable Elijah Muhammad had graphically depicted there the outstretched hands of the black brother in the Western Hemisphere, clasping in a bond of unity the outstretched hands of the black man from the Eastern Hemisphere. And so the great wise leaders and teachers of our people have always encouraged black, brown, red, and yellow to come together to unite and rise to overthrow the yoke of global white supremacy. So I don't see any substantive value in seeking to say that this beautiful culture that comes from the black man belongs to any specific geographic or ethnic people. It belongs to us. And we, whether we are immigrants from the Caribbean or whether we were those whose parents were enslaved in North America, we are one people. And when you talk about culture, you're really talking about, in most instances, an admixture of a multitude of influences and sources. So I don't think that it's a worthy conversation, but I believe if we look in the details, we will, as the old saying goes, we will see the devil in the details of this kind of artificial divisiveness surrounding hip hop's origins.
Yeah. And the same thing with Brother Dimitri mentioned, you know, we have to be careful. And those of us who know about the scent of the skunk, when we see such discussions and debates, we need to come in and to remember to lift the banner of unity, right? Because wherever we find division, we find ego, and we also find the devil. And we will be, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we can't fathom the depths of Satan. And we will be, shouldn't be surprised that as such divisive discussions could be things that have been manufactured by our enemy, right? And for those who are engaged in that debate, I would just like to offer the example of the Holy Quran, how Allah uses the terminology of we and us. And we're taught that these are human beings throughout the annals of time, accept different parts of time, but they all are working on a call with one will to produce this desired outcome. So with hip hop, everybody has contributed to it. And it's not by accident that this powerful genre of music came up post the oppression of the black man and woman in North America, because it's speaking to the oppression that we had, and then out of that oppression, look what came up. So I think we should acknowledge everybody's contribution, because in addition to the Jamaican debate, there's also this debate that's starting to bubble up where they're talking about whether or not what role or contribution our Latino brothers and sisters can do. But this is why the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, with giving us the title of us being the original people, that we get beyond that. We were here before Jamaica. We were here before New York and all of this. But we see ourselves as being the original people, that we all us have contributed to this thing called hip hop.
Absolutely beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. The symphony is in progress. I want to shout out to Australia in the building. I want to shout out to Phoenix watching along with us. Everybody, so glad that you're with us. My name is DJ Rockwell, host of the Rockwell Radio Show. And I tell you what, really quick, hey, we're almost at, it's 30 minutes in already. Oh my God. Oh my God. Let's keep going. To Minister Abdul Haq.
Yes, sir.
And to Minister Troy, this question is for you. The influence of the Nation of Islam on hip hop is certainly not new. And it would take forever for us to list the rappers who have dropped the minister's name in their bars, of course, as we know. Now, since we just had the conversation about Jamaica, I want to talk about Busta Rhymes real fast, and the influence that the Nation specifically had on Busta Rhymes as it relates to one video, one song that appeared on his latest album called Master Fard Muhammad. They put up the video, that clip real quick. We saw it right there. Real quick. Look at that, was the video featuring our brother Busta Rhymes, Rick Ross, and Scented is the Savior. We all saw the video. So my question is this, brothers: what is the significance of rappers who are not necessarily registered Muslims in the Nation of Islam lifting the name of Master Fard Muhammad in pop culture?
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. I think the significance of rappers and hip hop artists lifting the name of Master Fard Muhammad and really the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a testament to the dedication, the love, the spirit, the wisdom of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because I once read that he who was at one time called the King of Belgium, King Leopold, had a quote where he said, "Teach the niggas to forget their heroes and adore only ours."
Wow.
Niggas to forget their heroes and adore only ours. So we know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have taught us through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that our open enemy and oppressor have always sought to kill our leaders, to mischaracterize them, and to bury them under slander, defamation, and lies. And just as they did with Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, Dr. King, so many other of our great luminaries, they did the same thing with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad. They sought to bury their influence, to muddy and soil their names, and to really besmirch them and to hide their impact from the masses, particularly of our people. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, being anointed and appointed by God, he stood up in the midst of some of the most, I would say, vicious slander and defamation and mischaracterization of who he is and what he is. And he relifted the name and the respect and dignity and honor of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad when the American government did all that they could do to poison the well, as they say, to make Master Fard Muhammad look as if he was a thief, to again make us think that he was somebody that he wasn't. But the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, with his love and his dedication and his spirit, he raised again the name of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad.
Come on.
A level of respect and honor that now brothers like Busta Rhymes and many others, without fear or censure of our enemy, can now make songs about Master Fard Muhammad and the impact that he has had on their lives and the lives of our families and the lives of millions all over America and the world. So I think the significance of Busta Rhymes doing that song in this time, and not only doing that song, but he had a song where he played a introduction from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
That's right.
It shows again the consistency, the love, the dedication, and the impact and influence of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, although the enemy has tried to slander and defame him.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Rockwell radio show. Again, for everybody just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm telling you, this is one for the books. This is the Symphony, and I don't want to cut off. I want to go right to our brother. Then we're going to go to break. Let's hear from our brother, Student Minister Troy.
Again, praise be to Allah. Master Fard Muhammad's name being mentioned in the song, man, that's strong. It takes us back, us who are a bit older. You know, when I heard the word Farrakhan's a prophet that I think you ought to listen to, the Chuck D spoke, you know, that put something on my mind. So when the name Farrakhan came before me, it made me look into it. Maybe if I hadn't heard Chuck D say Farrakhan's name, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's name, I wouldn't have looked into it. So to inject the name of Master Fard Muhammad, just like the name of Malcolm X has been ejected, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad has been injected. You know, it makes a person look deeper into it. Again, we go back. In the beginning was the Word, and then the Word can eventually become flesh. So it's a blessed thing to have those names mentioned in songs amongst our people who may not be able to take the full plate that we try to push on them at this time. But if you can just drop those names in and prick their consciousness just a little bit, it can open them up to reach for something further. I use myself as an example of that when I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's name on a Public Enemy CD or a cassette tape. You know, it was later on that when that name came in my presence again, it pricked my interest. So it's very valuable of what Busta Rhymes has done, but it's also valuable to see what our brothers and sisters in hip hop are doing, you know, based upon their knowledge of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. You know, the do for self mentality that we see a lot of out of our New York rappers that spread all over the country. It's a beautiful thing, and you can see the influence of Master Fard Muhammad, of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, of Malcolm X, of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, right there in hip hop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a celebration of the 50th year of hip hop right here on the Rockwell Radio Show. I tell you what, everybody tell me if you're enjoying the show so far. Go ahead and help us all out. Hit that like button, hit that share button, and don't forget to subscribe to the Rockwell Radio Show. Again, welcome to all listeners and viewers who are watching us now on the Closing the Gap Broadcast Network. We thank you for joining us. This is the Symphony. Hold on, Dave. I gotta do this one more time, Dave. I gotta do it one more time. You are tuned in to the episode called The Symphony. With me today is Brother Minister Willie Muhammad, Brother Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, Brother Minister Dimitri Muhammad, and last but not least, our Brother Minister Troy Muhammad. We're going to break. This is the Rockwell Radio Show. We'll be right back.
What up with it, man? You already know what time it is. It's me, Young Kind of Don. I'm up in this thing.
This is Aziz, a kid, Kareem, the life-giving MC.
Peace, everyone. This is Brother Anthony K. Muhammad, also known as A-Tone, the hip-hop historian.
Peace, family. What's going on? It's Brother Jabril, Brother Mustafa, Lordship Productions in the building.
I am your sister, Arian Nicole. Peace, peace, peace. It's your sister, Sue Axel. You're watching the Rockwell Radio Show. You are now tuned in live to the Rockwell Radio Show.
Right now, you're listening to Rockwell Radio Show.
Rockwell Radio. You ain't listening, man. You wasting time. You on all these other stations. You need to tap in. Rockwell Radio.
You know what it is. Watch him, watch him, watch him.
I'm here with Brother Rockwell, the Rockwell Radio Show.
You ain't in the game. You in the stand. Stop playing, man. Let's go.
Assalamu alaikum. This is your brother, Nuri Muhammad. And whenever I'm searching for a source or a platform that I can get some news that I can use, I look forward to and look at, watch and listen to the Rockwell Radio Show. And I hope you would do the same. Tap in with Brother Vaughn, DJ Rockwell, and this great platform if you want to be inspired, enlightened, informed, uplifted, and properly prepared to perform in the world we live in. Rock with the Rockwell Radio Show. Peace.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Oh my goodness. We are back for the second half of the Rockwell Radio Show. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Thank you. Please, again, let us know what city you're watching from. I saw Houston was in the building. My brother Jay DeLay. Please let us know what city you're watching from, what mosque you represent, what church you represent, what organization you represent. I see Tennessee is in the house. My brother John Best. Love that brother. Again, we're talking about the 50th anniversary of hip hop and the impact. And this second half of the show is going to focus on the defense. Because right now, hip hop is under attack. What I say, man? What I say? We see you. Matter of fact, while we on that, the question was raised when I announced that the title of the show was The Symphony. Oh, let me start the beat. Everybody said, well, so which one of them going to be Big Daddy Kane? Which one of them going to be Fuji Rap? so I don't know. I'll leave that to y'all. You are watching the show. So again, we thank every single one of you who are joining us tonight. We're going to jump right back in to these questions. And Brother Dimitri, I'm not. Go get to it. It's impossible. It's impossible to get to these great questions. So I'm going to try to speed it up just a bit. And speaking of Brother Dimitri, I want to start again with him and Brother Willie with this question. Now, I want to take a look at hip hop as a potential force in American politics with this question. Pull up the brother we're going to talk about, Dave, with this one. Pull up the brother we're going to discuss. Ice Cube. Let's talk about Ice Cube for a minute. I want to talk about Ice Cube for a minute. Ice Cube under attack, right? Here's why. During the last presidential conversation, the last presidential campaign, we saw him present what we called the contract for Black America. He introduced it, as we know, to both candidates. And Black people, when he introduced it to the Republicans, laughed him out of the box and turned their back on it. I didn't mean to hit them. I didn't mean to say yay about that. Turn their back on it. And here's where I'm going with this. Some Black people said that Q was even out of his league for even raising the question, for stepping outside of his hip hop box, if you will. So my question is this, brothers. As much as hip hop has had an influence around the world, influence and impact around the world culturally, is it possible that if hip hop organized itself, that it could also have an impact and influence politically?
I don't know if Student Minister Willie wants to go first. Did you want to go first, brother, Student Minister Willie?
I'll go first. I will say yes, it does. And we have to understand this. As we speak right now, the U.S. government has several hip hop programs that they're using to really help develop a counter force against governments which they don't like. For example, they have one in Cuba, right? I know of some people who are artists that they're now shipping these artists around to these different countries. So the enemy understands the power and the power and the potential of hip hop, and they're using it. You see, when they were trying to get people to get on board for voting for Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden, they go and get our celebrities because they understand that. So hip hop does have the potential to do that. But what our brothers and sisters need more is more of the knowledge and to not allow themselves to be used for somebody else's agenda. And once again, I know we're all going to echo this, but it's just the facts. This is why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is so valuable, because we're starting to see many of those rappers, when they have the opportunity to be in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's presence, we see them leave and begin to start doing things, buying property, begin to start asking more questions. And you brought up Ice Cube. Here is a man who has been directly influenced by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan decades ago, and now look at what he's doing. And they see that. So I agree that it can and it should be. And I'll close on this. Remember, in the last hip hop summit that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke to the artists, he began to start encouraging them to go and read the newspapers about world issues, national issues, and even local issues, and said they begin to start using their voice to address them. So I definitely think it could.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother Minister Dimitri.
I just want to echo the sentiments of my brother, Student Minister Willie Muhammad. I think that hip hop has been effective in shaping and affecting the outcomes of certain elections, local, state, as well as national. I think, as Brother Student Minister Willie mentioned, the challenge is to organize and marshal the power of hip hop around an independent Black agenda, because right now, as you mentioned, the backlash that Ice Cube received from many in the Black community for presenting his proposal to conservatives shows that most in Black America and those who are involved in electoral politics are beholden to the Democratic platform.
Yes, sir.
Yet we should be like the immigrant community in other communities. We should organize and author our own independent agenda. And then we come together and we agree that the vote of Black America will go to the party who is most committed to our agenda. This is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been encouraging our people to do for years.
Yes,
I
sir.
would add to that the minister has often lifted for our consideration the history of China. Once upon a time, China had been infiltrated by America and Britain that flooded its streets with a very pure form of opium.
Yes, sir.
And the Chinese nation, when it was inherited by Chairman Mao Zedong. He inherited, in large part, a nation of drug addicts. And now the history makes it clear China is a global superpower. Part of what has made China a global superpower was Mao Zedong's cultural revolution.
Yes,
I
sir.
think my brother, Student Minister Hawk, mentioned a very powerful statement made by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan when he talked about the overwhelming power of a hip hop song or a rap song in comparison to a lecture. The minister didn't mean that the substance of a lecture is less than the substance of a song, but he's talking about the power of culture and the reach of music that goes beyond sometimes the mental barriers that one might erect that causes them to reject a lecture or something that is written on a piece of paper. Culture is very, very powerful. So Mao Zedong put the message of Chinese uplift. He put the message of Chinese pride. He put the message of Chinese dignity in songs, in television programs, in movies, in plays. And many of those chafed in that environment that he created because they were those who wanted to bring Western ideas and who wanted to bring filth and degeneracy into the Chinese people. But we see the success of that cultural revolution. And I say the question that you raised, DJ Rockwell, speaks to what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has called for Black America, that we are people who are in need, in dire need of a cultural revolution, and the power of hip hop can lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into the Rockwell Radio Show. My guest tonight.
That's right.
My guest tonight, whom I'm calling the Symphony. Student Minister Troy Muhammad, Student Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, Student Minister Dimitri Muhammad, and Student Minister Willie Muhammad, affectionately known tonight as the Symphony. Now, Dave, I want to backtrack to that book question. I'm gonna try to squeeze it in because I think this question is I think it's a good question. I want to ask this question, big brother. I want to go back to Brother Abdul Haq and Brother Troy with this question. An interesting book that I came across. The author's name is Bernard Creamer. And the 2020 book I'm referring to is entitled Who Stole the Soul? The Weaponization of Hip Hop. And he writes the following. Check out this excerpt. He said, hip hop married lyricism, DJing, graffiti art, breakdancing, and later knowledge of self. Every component equally as essential to the vibe. Over the years, as with other music forms created by African people, we've witnessed hip hop being compromised, co-opted, and commercialized, he says. It has been whittled down gradually to something that is unrecognizable to its beginnings. The profit motive, he says, has crept in along with the overarching agendas that anchor Black people to the bottom rung on that capitalist, classist ladder. Rich or poor, he writes, we are all being targeted with war. Now, it's interesting on the cover, he uses a smoking gun. Dave, you'll see another picture I put up there of a close-up of that shot. I want to go back to that real quick. Look closely at that shot. I put an arrow there near the gun. You'll see the arrow pointing to a microphone, and around the barrels, you see the other elements of hip-hop. Breakdancing, DJing, and graffiti. So I want to ask this question, dear brothers. Oh Lord, not the business. They got to go back and watch that episode. So we know that smoking gun in speaking terms often means, and the language means this exactly. Smoking gun means refers to an object or fact that serves as conclusive evidence of a crime. Brother, I want to ask the brothers this question. what would you point to as the smoking gun that proves that our music has been weaponized against us and that they really have declared war on us?
Well, dear brother Rockwell, according to a YouTube video that was created a few years ago by a channel or page called Hip Hop Universal, they said that in 2020, over 200 rappers had been killed, primarily, murdered, died, drug overdoses, etc. And they estimated that one rapper died every 44 hours. So as of lately, we've seen the deaths of Pop Smoke. We've seen the deaths of Offset. We've seen Young Dolph. So many rappers killed, murdered. So many rappers in jail. We see Young Thug, YSL, these RICO cases. So we see the murder and the fratricidal violence where hip hop artists are concerned. We've seen the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, and we know that in the beginning, that was not the aim or the intent of those of our people who had created this art form. It was in the same vein and line as blues and gospel. Many of the music that came as a result of the oppression that we as a people have suffered. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did a lecture entitled, "Where Will We Be Without Pain?" And in that particular lecture, he talked about how the pain of being under the foot, being under the oppression, being under the evil treatment of a slave master produced the music that we created that the world loved. So he said that pain is the mother of creativity. So it was the pain of oppression, the pain of poverty, of being in the ghettos and the hells of North America that gave birth to hip hop. But we see that those who have traditionally oppressed us and opposed us, they saw that we, through our ingenuity, we, through our creativity, we, through our skill and our originality, was able to take the pain and channel it into an art form that now we can express what it is that we had suffered and make a dollar from it. And they have never wanted to see us unite, nor have they ever wanted to see us influential. So just as they did with the Black Panthers, just as they did with the Nation of Islam, just as they did with Marcus Garvey organization, just as they did with Noble Drew Ali organization, they have always sought to keep us divided and to take us away from our goal and our objectives. So what we see happening now with hip hop is just a repeat of history. For the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have taught us through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that of all of our studies, history is the most attractive and the best qualified to reward our research. So again, what we see being done now with hip hop is what has been done with Black people 10 times over. Hip hop is just the modern thing that our open enemy is now using to overcome the influence that our people have and the influence that our people have had with this dynamic music genre.
Bro, hold on. Wait.
And can I say something too? I want to add this biblically.
Yes, sir.
Biblically,
Yes, sir.
The scripture says in the Bible, in the book of Ecclesiastes, in the 7th chapter, the 5th verse, that it is better to hear the rebuke of a wise man than to listen to the song of fools. Then it says in the book of 1 Samuel, the 16th chapter, the 23rd verse, and it came to pass when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul that David took in heart and played with his hands. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. So this open enemy, he knows the end power and the impact of music. He's not an unwise man, nor is he unlearned. So again, he knew and he knows the impact that music have and that words have and that our people have. So it has always been his routine practice or his modus operandi, again, to cause us to deviate from our original objective and agenda. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is trying to get our people back on track. He's trying to remind them of why you started hip hop, why you started this art form. It was for edutainment. It was not for us to be glorifying the things that we are now glorifying. Although he's not condemning them, he is here to raise them. For he said that when the sun draws the water up from the earth, it is polluted. He said, but the sun is not condemning the water for being dirty. That's not the sun's job.
Wow.
The sun's job is to purify the polluted water and bring it back down to the earth in a more purified form. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as the Holy Quran says, is the light of the world. And he is here now to purify the polluted waters of our minds, our spirit, our heart, in this art form called hip hop.
Let me make some noise for that. Now, if before we go to our next answer to that question, if you all only knew who was standing just off camera in the studio right now, this was not planned. I did not plan it. Brother, do you want to at least wave to the people? You got to come all the way on camera. Make it be all the way big screen, Dave. All the way big screen. You got to have to kneel down, brother, to look at it.
All praises due to Allah.
The great Captain Curtis.
Great Captain, yes, sir.
One day, we got to have Cap on the show and just tell Captain Curtis stories about old Atlanta stories. Brother, love you, Brother Cap. Love you, sir. Wow.
Praise be to Allah. Yes,
Let's
sir.
get back to the work. Let's get back to work. Now, I was not expecting that, but I had to acknowledge my brother when he walked in the door. Now, let's go to our brother, Minister Troy, please.
Yes, sir.
Before I do, I want to do some quick house cleaning. There's some background noise that we're hearing. So if you're not speaking, will you do us all the favor of muting your mic until you speak so we can isolate that noise? Thank you. Brother Troy, the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, sir. You know, I believe sometimes we forget that we were made deaf, dumb, and blind.
Come on now.
I think sometimes, you know, to say that hip hop or talk about this smoking gun concerning hip hop, we forget that the actual smoking gun is when our people were taken as slaves and robbed of the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self and the knowledge of our enemy, man. And we're trying to come out of that. And that's what you see in hip hop. It's a cry in a lot of senses. It's a cry telling you what's going on in my life, what's going on in my community. It's a cry where a man or a woman who never had a stage gets a stage, and then they say everything that's in their heart and their mind on that stage, man. So I don't think that, I think that we were weaponized when we were robbed of the knowledge of self and made into like Frankenstein monsters, where where our enemy put his mind in us and we killing each other and hurting each other and abusing one another. I think that's the smoking gun. What was done previous to this. It's not that they hijacked hip hop, but since we lack the knowledge of self, we haven't taken control of hip hop. We haven't taken control of the stuff that we create and that we should own. You know, you look at the history of hip hop, hundreds of millionaires have come out of hip hop. You know, you look at the clothing industry that they've affected and creating their own brands and own labels. And you mentioned Ice Cube earlier. He's in Detroit today and tomorrow in his Big Three basketball league, the only black-owned sports league in the country, man. He owns that. And he contacted me, his manager, Brother Ron, who is a member of the Nation of Islam, contacted me to get tickets and give them to our people in the community. So, I mean, it's a lot of things that hip hop is trying to do and trying to push out of, man. But the smoking gun happened when this devil took our forefathers and brought them here and put them in slavery. And that's what we're fighting against, man. That's what we're struggling against. So we can't condemn them where they're at today. You know, we have to like the minister does with such love, man. He grabs our hand and he pulls us along gently, man. It's a process we're going through. It didn't, we didn't get in this condition overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. But we have to be patient with one another, loving of one another, and not condemn one another. As we're talking about a book now. When it comes to hip hop, we got to reach in as those who have been affected and touched with a knowledge of ourselves and try to bring our brothers gently along, man.
Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, and my brother from New Orleans waved the flag and said, I got to speak on that. I got to speak on that. So we're going to yield to our brother from Muhammad Mosque number 46. Unmute yourself, my brother.
There's a clip that I aired on my Instagram page from the Christian rapper Lecrae, and he made a great point. He said that rappers would not be able to make an album talking about killing dogs.
I saw that.
And
wow.
if they did so, it would be shut down immediately. But however, we can make numerous albums that's talking about gun violence as it relates to us, right? And that's not unintentional. And think about what Dr. Cornel West said when he was on Breakfast Club this week. He talked about how he brought his album, was shopping his album around, and he mentioned Clive Davis told him, we're not interested in that type of music. We want G-string music.
Come on.
And Dr. Cornel West said, when you begin to specifically only push a certain kind of music to black people, he said, then that's coveted. That's wrapped in white supremacy, right? So as our brother Troy mentioned, we have to remember, especially of those who understand what our people's condition is in, that this current stage of hip hop music that's over pushed to us, it's the music that reflects the mindset that white folks have created us when they made us niggas.
Come on.
And the album Minister Louis Farrakhan has never forgotten that. The minister sees our people the same way someone sees our people in one of these thriller movies or action movies, where you have this victim who's under a trance, or they're under some type of spell, or as Brother Troy mentioned, they've been made into a Frankenstein.
Wow.
And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan sees that and understand that, yes, the music that is coming out of their mouths isn't the best, but my brother is under a spell. He's demon possessed, or she's demon possessed. And I have to find a way to bring that out of them without harming them, so then I can get them out of the way and take a shot at the real enemy that has their mind hostage. So this is why I tell our people, we have to be very careful in our critique of our brothers and sisters, because some of us, in our critique of our brothers and sisters in the music that they're making, we speak as if they're not some of those rappers who are out here today that makes music contrary. The Sarats,
listen,
the Heveka Meccas,
heck of a Mecca, my sister,
right? The Nakila Nihande, our brother Golden Child.
Right.
So one of the things that we have to do is we can't just focus on the poor part, but we also have to let people know where we use our social media. Some of us have 10,000, 15,000, 25,000 followers just on Instagram, 5,000 on Facebook, another 30,000 on TikTok. Why not use our platforms to begin to promote those artists who are more in line with what we're saying our people need to be doing?
Beautiful. Can't say
Lord.
any better than that. Wow, wow, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you are watching the Rockwell Radio Show. Dave, can you do one more time the 3 steps?
Absolutely.
3 steps. If you're just joining in, we need everybody to hit that like and share button. Tag somebody who you think they'd be interested in this. And last but not least, we're asking everybody, go ahead and subscribe to the Rockwell Radio Show tonight on YouTube. We are now 8 minutes over the hour. 9 minutes past our time. And I always promise that I'll try to get my guest out of here in an hour. So I want to get to one last question. And after the question, I'll do closing comments with my guests. Brothers, I want to ask you to look back 3 weeks in the headlines. 3 weeks ago, there was a country singer in the headlines named Jason Aldean, who made headlines for a record. you know, but it was significant to their culture, so much so that the country music stations decided they weren't going to play it. But I'm going to take a stop right here and go to the Rockwell Radio newsroom and let them explain it. Watch this.
A new video from country music star Jason Aldean is no longer airing on country music television. The cable network pulled it after critics pointed out that the video for Try That in a Small Town was filmed at a lynching site. It depicts crime, flag burning, and protesters scuffling with law enforcement. Nancy Chen reports the lyrics suggest none of that could happen in a small town without consequences.
People are upset at the country music channel. Because the Jason Aldean song, Try That in a Small Town.
Yeah.
The level of outrage, like, now I'm not saying that that's the greatest song the world's ever known, you know, but the level of outrage coming from people that are upset about that song is so strange when there are hundreds of rap songs out there that are infinitely worse.
I've heard, like, if we pulled up some rap lyrics and put them side by side, ours would be way worse.
And also enjoyable.
Misogynistic, prolifying violence, the whole thing. Yeah.
And no complaints at all.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking about old stuff.
And we sing them every single day. We'd be in the club singing them, all that.
So that's the situation. And we see that even some people who look like us share that opinion. But it doesn't stop there. The country fans came out in droves on Twitter to defend their boy. And here were some of the things that they said. Let's go to some of those tweets, Dave. They said, "Oh, Ricky, why don't you tell us something about the rap artists and let's tell us what they've been saying?" Well, let's go to another one. Well, I bet you thought WAP was a fantastic song. Let's go to another one. And one person said, as debate and controversy surrounding the song continues, what about the racist murder rap lyrics America is subjected to daily? Let's go one more, Dave. So you get the point. MSM claiming that Try That Small Town is violent. Rap music is for the last 30 years promoting murder, robbery, and gang violence. You get the gist of what's happening here. So the question, brothers, we want to defend this culture. We want to defend this art. And some people think that perhaps we've painted ourselves into a corner and the culture and the music has become indefensible. So when they throw the worst of us in our face, like you just saw, how do we defend this culture without looking hypocritical? I want to start. In fact, I want to hear from everybody on this one, and we'll close with this question.
Well, I would say, dear brother, again, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us that history is the recorded deeds of men, women, and nations as they struggle against impediments in their evolutionary march toward the absolute. So wise people study history because history is cyclical in nature. So to oversimplify what you see our young hip hop artists speaking about are the patterns of behavior that you see them engaged in, out not looking at it in its proper context is to misdiagnose what it is that you see. And I think that you can't talk about the condition of our people and exclude the history of what we've been through, as Brother Troy, Brother Dimitri, and Brother Willie has said. For the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have taught us through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that one of the first and most important truths that must be established in this day is our identity, because we've been robbed of our complete identity for over 400 years. So you can't exclude that when you're talking about the patterns of behavior and the thought patterns that you see our people exemplifying, because we are engaged in, or we are suffering from what the social scientists call internalized oppression. And internalized oppression is when the oppressed group begin to do to each other what the oppressors have done to them. So now the killing that you see us doing of one another, we learned it from somewhere. We didn't just get like this because we were born like this. No, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that the attributes that you see we have acquired, they are situational. They're not dispositional. We were not born to hate ourselves or to hate each other or to do harm to each other, but we have been socially engineered to perform the behaviors that you see us performing on one another, and America knows it. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, quoting Victor Hugo, quoting from Dr. King, he said, if the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. He said the guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but he who creates the darkness.
Come on. We'll finish in this order. We'll go Brother Minister Willie, Brother Minister. Oh, did we lose Brother Troy? Okay, and we'll go Brother Willie, and then we'll close with Brother Dimitri because I see that he has a presentation prepared. Go ahead, dear brother.
Briefly, I would just tell them, we can't make excuses for the behavior that we are seeing in our community. That's part of the Nation of Islam's existence, where we've been working to clean that up. But as our brother Abdul Haq said, let's not act as if that behavior that is finding itself in the music did not come out of conditions that were forced on us. We wouldn't be rapping about drugs in our community if it wasn't for you all pushing dope in our community to help pay for a war in the Iran-Contra scandal. We wouldn't be talking about drill and guns if you wouldn't flood our community with weapons. So when you get past that and look at the clothing tag on the back, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you're going to see it says Made in America.
Listen.
You've helped produce this. So what you're looking at what you produce. And if you are sick of it, then what you need to do is let the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam and others who want to better our condition get out of our way so we can do it. But what the history shows that every time we've tried to work to fix a problem you have created, you've gotten our way. The COINTELPRO program was stopping. It was not only trying to discredit and discredit individuals and organizations, but it was trying to kill our Black leaders and organizations for doing what?
Listen.
Trying to fix a problem that you created, which is the problem of the problem of a so-called Negro, which is now is a nigger.
Listen.
So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I'll say this and I'll close. Remember, he pointed out in the movie Menace to Society. He said, why didn't they use the word TO instead of the Roman numeral 2? Because we are the junior of the first menace. So you're looking at what your hands have produced.
Ladies and gentlemen, come on now. You tune into the Rockwell Radio Show. And apparently we lost our brother, Minister Troy of Detroit. Brother, we thank you for joining us, Brother Troy. If you're not going to come, thank you, Brother Minister Troy. Let us close with our dear brother from Mosque number 55, Brother Dimitri.
Come on, Brother Dimitri. That's right. Go ahead, soldier. That's right.
You're muted.
Brother DJ Rockwell, I wanted to certainly echo the powerful sentiments of my brothers. I wanted to introduce just one slide if Brother Dave can add it, because I think it's important to contextualize what we're talking about. And this is a newspaper article from 1991. And what's very powerful about this news article, and it's something of another type of smoking gun, if you will, but it shows that in the late 80s and early 90s, those in the white power structure had made a startling observation, a concerning and troubling observation in their eyes. They saw the rise of this youth culture phenomenon known as hip hop. And certainly in prior generations, the young people always have their music. They always have their style, and it sometimes ruffles the feathers of the elder generation. But what deeply concerned the gatekeepers of popular culture was that in this burgeoning youth culture phenomenon known as hip hop, they saw their dreaded foe and most feared of all leaders in the history of Black America, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Come on.
For many in the white power structure were very happy in 1975 with the departure of the honorable Elijah Muhammad, and when the Nation of Islam seemed to go out of popularity, when many of those who were part of the nation at that time moved into Sunni orthodoxy. So the white power structure were happy that gone was that Black nationalist Islam that has as its staple teaching the knowledge of self, the knowledge of God, the knowledge of the enemy of God, the knowledge of the time and what must be done, and the knowledge of the judgment. But in September of 1977, Allah guided the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to stand and to begin to build that work. So from 77 onward, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the rebuilding of the nation was gaining momentum. And in 1985, the world was shocked, for they thought that the nation was gone. But when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came to Madison Square Garden and sold it out, and not only sold out the garden, but he also sold out the Felt Forum. They say, who is this Black man that is like a rock star, filling stadiums and arenas when other Negro leaders can barely fill a church sanctuary? And they had to go and they had to scratch their heads to plan what would their response be, because they saw that the Nation of Islam was back. And not only did you have the minister, his student ministers and helpers and representatives and spokespersons promoting the message of Islam among our people, but you also had hip hop culture that was harboring love and affinity and admiration for the message of the Nation of Islam. So check out this article and what they were saying in the early 90s. Now pay close attention to this time period, because hip hop historians acknowledge that this is around the time that hip hop makes a radical shift, a radical departure from what they used to call message rap. And you had the first morphing into what was called gangster rap that began the self-destructive path of hip hop music. They said that Elijah Muhammad, the longtime leader of the Nation of Islam, is having a deep influence on rap music 15 years, their words, not mine, after his death. With unprecedented directness, a number of new rappers are putting Muhammad's core dogma that white people are a race of devils and snakes, and that African Americans are descended from the tribe of Shabazz, the original man created by Allah. Now, certainly, they are taking the teachings and framing it in a way that we would not frame it. But I digress to say, the point is that in the early 1990s, when hip hop began to go in a direction where now people are complaining that it's all about murder rap. People are complaining that it's all about the sexual objectification of our women, that it glorifies drug use and gang violence and conspicuous consumption of goods, all of which is true, but it's not an organic development. It's a manufactured reality created by those who had identified the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the fastest growing youth culture in the world. And they came together, they organized to stop the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in hip hop culture. And since that time, you see the so-called conscious rappers who were center stage in the early days, they've been pushed to the margins. And certainly hip hop always had a plethora of diverse artists. Even in that time, we had the likes of Luther Campbell and Two Live Crew, but they were considered marginal acts when Public Enemy and other acts, Big Daddy Kane, all of those brothers who were promoting the knowledge of self, they were center stage. They were the mainstream of hip hop.
Right.
But today, you got to struggle to find an artist who is teaching the knowledge of self. You got to struggle to find an artist who has a message that is more in keeping with the definition of the very word culture, which talks about the belief, the values, and the virtues of a people. Certainly Black America does not hold as a virtue and a value sexual promiscuity. Certainly our people don't hold as a value the conspicuous consumption of material things. Certainly our people don't have as an important virtue and value the disrespect of our women. Yet those who are the enemies of Minister Farrakhan, the enemies of the Nation of Islam, are the very same people that are the gatekeepers and the controllers of the most powerful youth art form in the world.
Listen.
And this is the reason why we must begin to get involved. As Student Minister Willie said, we need to make sure that on all of our platforms, we are promoting those artists that are going against the grain. We're promoting those artists that have a message in their music, and that we organize as a people to take back hip hop. It belongs to us, whether you from the immigrant community of Black people or you from the domestic community of Black people. Islam belongs to Black people of the world, and we have to run the devil from among us, because he's proven to be disagreeable to live with in peace. And he must now be driven out of this culture that rightfully belongs to the Black man of America, as Minister Farrakhan is resurrecting us from being Negroes to once again being the original man.
You need some explosion sound effects.
I need some gunshots or something. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you have just witnessed. Let me stop the beat and drop. Count one more time.
Bring it.
You have just witnessed the Symphony live on the Rockwell Radio Show. Brother Student Minister Demetric Muhammad, Student Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, Student Minister Willie Muhammad, and last but not least, of course, my big brother from Detroit, Student Minister Troy Muhammad. I thank you all. I thank you all. I thank you all. I want to say in closing, Dave, I've heard it said in the comments already, is there going to be a part 2? I'm going to put my wish list out there right now. Let me stop the music. This is my wish list for part 2. Student Minister, author. Student Minister Abel Muhammad of Chicago. My wish list. Formerly known as Student Minister Carlos, now Brother Abdul Salam.
Let me add one to that wish list, brother.
Come on, who you got?
Dr. Wesley. We got to get Dr. Wesley on there. Praise you all out.
That's my wish list for part 2. We will see you all next week. And again, I want to thank my big brother from Mines number 7C, pardon me, Brother Jabril. He was very instrumental in making this happen. I want to thank again, Brother Minister Arthur, who invited. We had a miscommunication. He would have been here, but he again is my wish list for number 2. Everybody subscribe, and we will see you right here next week on the Rockwell Radio Show. Big Dave, we are out of here.
Now, if you got past all of that, you might as well keep on rocking with us. So come on, everybody, let's go. Radio show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show. That means you too. Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show. Subscribe. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. The Rockwell Radio Show, y'all. The Rockwell Radio Show. Come on now, y'all. Yeah. It was a dope episode, man. Come on, man. Top trip.